Hi guys, I'm Jason White. This is my channel, Jason's Weird Reads. Thank you for joining me. For this video, I'm going to do a tag video. I was tagged by Dane over at Dane Reads. Thank you, Dane. And he tagged me in a few videos a little while back, and this is one of them. And it's the Oscar book tag. So I know that the Oscars they've come and gone by a few months now, but I'm a big fan of the Oscars, honestly. There's a lot of people who hate the Oscars, and I don't get it. I think it's fun. I think it's nostalgic, too, because I used to watch them all the time when I was a kid. And it's just something I kept doing over the years, if I can. A lot of the times I can't, because I always have a job that makes me work Sunday night, right on Oscars. But I did get to watch this year, and it was a lot of fun. Alright, so, the first award is best, actually, maybe, you know what, I'm going to do these from 11 to 1, because best picture is always the last one, right? Alright, so, at number 11 is best costuming, and that's the best cast of characters. I went with A Song of Ice and Fire. The characters in that, most people would know this by Game of Thrones. I honestly like the books much better than the TV series, and that might be cliche to say, I don't know, but I read the books first, and they're just so much more in depth. There's things that happen in the first couple of seasons of the series that it's not bad. I'm not harping or complaining about a Game of Thrones. It's a good series, and it does well at adapting. But there's differences that I prefer in the book, and the cast of characters is one of them. Tyrion, for example, his character he's a lot more entertaining to watch, and this isn't me insulting the actor who plays Tyrion in the television series. It's just, I mean, he adapted that character and made it his own, and that's perfectly fine. But I honestly prefer the book version of Tyrion. And one thing I really like about all the characters is how they evolve. They all, the ones that survive anyway, up to where we are, they all evolve differently, and it's fascinating to watch. 10, best cinematography, or best world building. For this, I went with Wheel of Time. There's a lot of fantasy books out there, actually, that you could, even horror, that you could give this award to. But I went with Wheel of Time because, one, I'm reading it right now, and two, it's just so very complex. It's the most complex world. If I were to say the top three would be Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, and A Song of Ice and Fire. Those are the most realistic fantasy worlds in my mind, and but I had to give it to Wheel of Time because it just blows me away. The only thing that's weird about this series that doesn't seem realistic is it doesn't matter what nation people come from, they all speak English. Alright, best director, and that's favorite author. I went with H.P. Lovecraft, and this is because I'm on a fairly big H.P. Lovecraft kick lately, but I also went with it because I was kind of deciding, H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King. When all is said and done, Stephen King has influenced a lot of stuff, but H.P. Lovecraft influenced him, and H.P. Lovecraft influenced so many other authors. So it was really tight. I would actually give it a tie between H.P. Lovecraft and Stephen King. Number 8, best screenplay, favorite standalone book. This one was hard, surprisingly. I ended up going with The Lesser Dead by Christopher Buehlman. I read this last year for the Books in the Freezer read-along, or readathon, that they held. I think it was in October. And I really loved this book. It was just a lot of fun, and very, very bloody. It's about vampires, but man, I loved it though. It was a lot of fun. I really liked the characters in that one too. Number 7, best supporting actor. Favorite male supporting character, And I was just talking about him. I went with Tyrion from A Song of Ice and Fire because he's very much a tea drinker. He also likes his wine a lot. And I always like watching characters who drink a lot. I don't know why. I could have easily went with Jaime too, from the same series, because he had a really interesting character arc, from being a very unlikable bad guy who kills kids to a sympathetic character. That's like, wow, that takes some accomplishing. Kudos to George R.R. Martin. All right. Number 6, Best Supporting Actress. Favorite female supporting character. I went with Moraine from Wheel to Time, again because I'm reading it and it's topmost on my mind. And also because Moraine, not only does she kick ass, but she's a human being. She's flawed. She makes mistakes, and I love that about her. She's not just like run into the battlefield and save the day with her lightning bolts. She makes mistakes too. All right, number 5, Best Actor. Favorite male protagonist. I haven't talked about this series much, but I probably should more. I haven't been reading it lately though, and the 8th book I believe just came out, and that is the Expanse series. I went with Holden because he's just, if I were to ever be on a spaceship, I would choose Holden as my captain. He's just very fair, and he doesn't just yell at you. He's just a great all-around character. He's funny too. Actually, they're all funny in that series, but I love those books. I'm probably not going to be able to get to book 8 until book 9 is out, when I'm done The Wheel of Time. So I just don't have any time for any other big books right now, unless I really want to slow down my reading pace. But that's another story. Alright, number 4, Best Actress. Favorite female protagonist. And I went with Bryony Adams from Pretty Little Dead Girls, written by Mercedes M. Yardley. This book is just, oh my god, I love this book. It's so whimsical and fun to read. Looking at the cover and reading the synopsis, I was a little hesitant about reading it because I thought it might, a horror fan saying this is kind of weird, but I was afraid it would disturb me. But it's not disturbing at all. If anything, it's very fun, and it can be very funny. And Bryony Adams is like a really fantastic character. I loved reading about her, and I think it would be really cool if Mercedes was able to write more about her in the future. She probably won't though, but it would be cool. Number 3, Best Documentary, and that's favorite nonfiction book. I went with I Am Providence by The Life and Times of H.P. Lovecraft by S.T. Joshi. One reason why I went with this is because it is really cool biography. It's very long though, and for writing about a somewhat reclusive writer who there's these stereotypes that are placed on H.P. Lovecraft, and this book kind of debunks most of them. And that one of them is being that H.P. Lovecraft was, massively reclusive. He was slightly reclusive. He didn't really like going out about his own town, but he did travel a lot, and a lot more than you'd think. He even lived in New York for a while when he married his wife. And he also traveled, I think he traveled to Montreal once. He traveled to Florida. And he also traveled to Boston a lot. He had a lot of friends, a lot of writing friends everywhere in the East Coast, and he would go visit these people. He also corresponded with them a lot, and of course, there's the knowledge that H.P. Lovecraft was racist, and yes, he was racist. But a lot of people, when you hear that somebody's racist these days, and let me be upfront about this, I am completely against racism, and for obvious reasons. I am very much progressive in human evolution, And I think we should be able to grow beyond such pettiness and stupidness as hating another person because of their culture or their skin color. It's ridiculous. Having said that, H.P. Lovecraft wasn't a robe-wearing KKK member. I think if you're going to judge H.P. Lovecraft, because a lot of people do, if you're going to judge him on his racism, read this book first, because you'll get an idea exactly where he was coming from. He had absolutely no reason to be a racist. Let's get that straight. There is no reason for that at all. You should be able to think for yourself. But just to give you a short summary, both his parents, both his mother and his father, died in an insane asylum at different times. And he was raised by his grandfather, who was racist, and he was also raised by his aunts, who were also racist. They were basically, they didn't like the idea of people moving from other countries or even other places, moving into their town. And it's that typical xenophobia of the fear of people invading and taking over. And so, obviously H.P. Lovecraft adopted a lot of these things. But if you read this book, you'll learn that by near the end of his life, he was beginning to change his views. So there's a lot of contradictions. There's, it's like, don't judge something until you know a lot more about it, and then make your assumptions. And the reason why I bring this up is because you cannot have a conversation these days about any Lovecraft story without somebody bringing up about how much of a racist he was. So I think it's time to forgive, move on. And if you're free to disagree with me. That was some tea drinking right there. Well, I'm drinking coffee, but it's the same thing. Alright. Number 2. Best foreign film. Favorite diverse book. And here I went with a book I haven't read in years, but it really did disturb me. It's A Fine Balance, by an author who lives in Toronto, actually. At least he used to. I don't know if he still does. But anyways, his name is Rohinton Mistry. Now, this book is about the caste system over in India. And basically, it takes the point of view of the very poor caste. And they're basically human trash to the government, at least during the time period that this book was written in. I don't know too much about Indian history. And it's just very fascinating. It's a completely different world from where we're living. You could almost compare it to homeless versus the rich, and what the rich want to do to the homeless over here. And we're not innocent of the crimes that these people had against them. Like, there's a part in A Fine Balance where these guys are ushered into an enclosure, basically, where they're neutered, basically, because the government doesn't want these poor, filthy people reproducing. And Canada was actually guilty of that with our own natives in Edmonton, I believe. We started neutering native Canadians because we didn't want them multiplying. That's a bit of Canadian history that Canadians don't really like. Either they don't know about it, or they do know about it and they just don't want to admit it. But, it just goes to prove that this kind of thing happens everywhere. And it's awful, and it needs to stop. Last one. Best Picture. Favorite book series. And, you know what? This one was a tie. I can't break the tie, at least not right now. And so it's going to go with Wheel of Time or A Song of Ice and Fire. Both these books, both these series are, they're very different and yet the same. There's much more magic in Wheel of Time. There's very little magic in A Song of Ice and Fire. It's definitely more grimdark. And Song of Ice and Fire, Wheel of Time is more, fantastical, magical type hero fiction. But it has a lot of reality in it too, especially when it comes to the characterization. I love both these series, and so the award goes to both. Alright, so that is my Oscar book tag. Thank you, if you watched this long, thank you for sticking around, and you keep being creative, and I will catch you in the next bookish video.